First of all, I apologize to the people who were on here earlier. I wish I could get my exact same group that was on here earlier because we were having an amazing discussion. But as you know, I am also working. So basically, my time in the car is the time that I am able to give you like a little bit of things in the middle of my work. But I will tell y'all, the page is a little bit of my therapy because I don't sit down. I'm not someone who sits down and talks about my problems all day. Matter of fact, I barely talk about my problems at all. So these little car sessions that at first were just, hey, let me figure out a way to maintain my page since I don't really have the emotional energy anymore to keep it up, has now become decompression in between things that are going on throughout my day, which is kind of a form of therapy to just be able to just talk things out in between and to be like, this is what's happening with me in my day, and I work through it that way. So shout out to y'all for helping me with that. I'm Marshall. But I wanted to continue what I was saying earlier, and then I also wanted to maybe add something new. I already forgot the new thing, but I know where I left off. Kira and Vicky and Charicity were talking to me about my interviews, and who was it who told me? Vicky was the one who told me that she thought my Sam interview was the best one. So a thing about my interview with Sam is that it requires a whole different bag to do an in-person interview with somebody, because now you're not just sitting in your safe, comfortable environment in your house. You're not just in the comfort of your home where you control a lot of the elements. And it's like me on my computer. It takes away a little bit of the anxiety, not all of it, but a little bit of the anxiety because I'm in my house. That's my safe space. Now I'm leaving my safe space to go to an undisclosed location, which in that case happened to be this coffee shop. I had to think about, what am I gonna wear? Because I could care less what I'm wearing in my house. Not that I dress like a bum, but like I have my same Zoom etiquette. I could wear like a decent shirt and a pair of shorts underneath because it's not like I'm standing up during this interview. So therefore, there's a lot more flexibility for me to wear, whatever. This time I'm thinking I'm gonna have to be on camera. So now a part of what I'm doing is picking out something that I feel would be appropriate to be on camera, because things on the internet live on forever. Then I have to figure out the videographer. I got to figure out the things with that. I got to pay the videographer. And then it's a little more intimidating. What's up? It's a little more intimidating to actually meet somebody in person, and then you don't know what kind of person they're going to be. And then, I mean, I knew Sam a little bit because I met her once before and interacted with her a little bit on Instagram DMs, but that's not the same as like really meeting up with somebody in person and learning their energy or whatever. So I met up with her, and I mentioned this before, that she calmed me down by the fact that my videographer was there very late, and she said it was okay. And that whole loud, like aggressive New Yorker, like, I'm a New Yorker, this and that, she wasn't like that in the coffee shop before the camera went on. She was quiet and cool, and we just had a normal, low-key, regular conversation that I would never have expected to have. And then I pivoted so much that quiet, conversation that took place in that coffee shop prior to the videographer arriving. I put so much into that interview. I brought props to the interview. I threw in some questions. I was listening to her very intently. And I threw in some follow-up questions in there that I just came up with on the spot. I impressed myself because I never done something like that before. I did do an in-person interview before. I did like 3 in-person interviews before, more than 3. 7, 8 in-person interviews, but these are with friends and family, so it's a totally different ballgame. Interviewing friends and family versus interviewing a complete stranger that you watched on TV and you just reached out to them randomly because you don't have the rapport. We built up the rapport. People are like, oh, I liked the rapport that you had and the chemistry. The rapport and the chemistry was built in 45 minutes. And it's because this is the type of person who is, unless you're on their bad side, very easy to get along with, right? So because of the amount of work it took me to prepare for that interview, all the different factors and doing takes and retakes of certain things when the videographer arrived, the anxiety I had to deal with in the morning, and the fact that none of that showed up on camera. It was probably the most comfortable that I ever looked or felt in an interview. Like her and John Brennan. But John Brennan is a calming force. Like, there's not as much that comes with Brennan. And I mean that very respectfully. John Brennan is such a nice guy that you don't have to worry about a thing when you get interviewed by him, or when you interview him or get interviewed by him. You know that he's not going to make you look like a fool or anything like that. So there's that, but there's that part. But when it comes to this interview thing, I'm now more seasoned of an interviewer because I've done this for a while. Even though I haven't done it in a while, I've done it for a little while. So, and I don't think that I have had an interview with anyone, with the exception of Ayana. Ayana's the one person I had a greater rapport with than Cara. Because Ayana and I, before we got this interview in, had been communicating back and forth from, like, I want to say October, November of 2022 until about like April, May of 2023. And when I say communicating, I don't just mean like a reach out here and there via DM. Like I didn't have her phone number at the time, but she would reach out on Instagram and she would send me these like uplifting voice notes and stuff. And so, and we had a good rapport. We had never met at that now a couple of times, but we had a good rapport. But that was still my first interview from anyone, so I was still very nervous for that one. I'm probably going to be very nervous for this Cara interview, I'm not going to lie. But I feel like I haven't felt nervous meeting her, speaking to her in person, so I don't see that necessarily being the case. I'm always a little nervous, just I want my interview to go well type of nervous, but I believe there's a comfortability there, and I believe that when you're comfortable with somebody, it translates on camera, and that's the reason why my interview with Sam went so well, because it reminded me of just talking to a friend. Like, that's how my friends talk to me, honestly. Even if it might look like, oh, she's roasting him. I'm like, that's the kind of friends that I grew up on. That's the kind of era. We're the same age, the same year. She's born like 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 months prior to me. So, like, we grew up on the same playgrounds, dog eat dog, killer be killed. And I can tell the difference between when somebody says something to me maliciously to hurt my feelings, or whether somebody is like speaking to me in jest, in kind of like an endearing way. So that's how I took that whole interview. But yeah, this next one that I have coming up, which is going to be my first one in over a year, I think that it's going to be excellent. Secondly, today, another draining day. I did manage to get through the appointments that I had to do today. I told y'all I was so stressed from appointment 1 to appointment 2. Well, appointment 2 to appointment 3, because I had already had an appointment in the morning first. I did 2 social security applications with people today, which takes so long. And then in between that, I saw that member that was so harsh and hard to deal with, and got an apology. But at the same time, I can appreciate some parts of things that happen and not appreciate other parts. We wouldn't have gotten to the point of me responding the way that I did and demanding. I didn't demand an apology, but let's just say I stood my ground and I set my boundaries really hard. And the reason I set those boundaries so hard was because management did not do me any favors in helping me set those boundaries. They just sat idly by and waited until things got out of hand for me, and I had to take matters into my own hand. And that's the only way how I seem to, if at least for now, have resolved the issue. Okay. One good thing that I could say that is coming out of this job towards the end of the year is that my clients, not all of them, I would say about 25-30% of them have been expressing a large amount of appreciation for me and for the way how I comfortable and the way how trust me. And you know what? Like I said, those things are deeper to me than anything that I get in my bank account. Because you know why? Those are the things that I hang my hat on in life. I show up at these people's houses as a case manager, but at the end of the day, they're a human being and I'm a human being. I sat with somebody today. Her daughter was murdered in this year. Terrible, horrific story of how it happened, and potentially quit. Terrible story. So this person that I speak to, I spent from 10 o'clock when our appointment started till about 1 o'clock. I didn't have to stay there until 1 o'clock. The reason I stayed there, with what I was doing with her, which was, like I said, the Social Security application, that part took about an hour. It might have even taken less than that if we had just been straight going through the thing. But in between, as I was asking the questions that are on the form, she had a story for each thing. And I could have been like, okay, ma'am, I know that you wanted to speak about this and this, reminisce on the past. However, I have a job to do, so unfortunately, I cannot, spend all this time going through all this with you. I can just, let's just get right to the facts, and I just need to put the information in the form, submit it, and be done with it. But I was like, this is actually seems to be a part of this person's therapy to get out, to tell me like what happened in her history, to tell me about her daughter that that's no longer here, and stories that she had, things that made her laugh, things that made her cry. And I'm like, this is the way that I view that. Staying in there for 3 hours does myself no favors from a job standpoint, because that's hours taken away from other people. But I know that if it was me and I had that much on my heart and mind, and somebody came in, so they were coming into my house, and I was committing, letting them come into my house twice a month, and a day comes when they have so much to say, so much on their mind, and very few people to talk to, and I'm like, okay, your 15 minutes is up, or it's not 15 minutes, but hypothetically speaking, like your 15 minutes is up. They would probably feel robbed and cheated. Like, why is he even here for if he's not here to help me? Now, as a case manager, I don't have to help them. I mean, not that I don't have to help them, but I don't have to help them from an emotional standpoint. Emotionally, I just have to say, I recommend that you talk. Are you seeing a psychiatrist? Are you getting your medications? Are you taking your medications on time? Do you go to some kind of a support group? Like those are the only things a case manager has to do. But I feel like I'm here, and one of my top skills is people. Like I'm extremely good with people, which is why coming into this job, it was so disheartening to me how I don't even know if I want to call them skills as much as I want to call them inherent qualities. It was so disheartening how those inherent qualities about me do not get recognized, do not get acknowledged, do not get celebrated. It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling, but I have now gotten to a point where if it's only out of 40 people, even if it's only 10, information of how they feel about me, how they appreciate me, right? Are 10 people lying? Are 10 people that say the exact same thing lying? So it's just, I've started to reach a point where I'm like, that's not a me thing. That's a them thing. Like, I'm doing me. I'm being me. And I think I'm just in the wrong profession. I'm in the wrong job. I'm like, I'm not around the right people. I don't have the right management. I don't have the right supervision, and I don't have the right people to recognize what I bring to the table, to feature that and to value that. It's not a me thing. It's a them thing. And it's a big weight off of my shoulders. I was really internalizing this from the time I started this job until about maybe September. I had a colleague who has probably become one of my go-to people to talk to about work-related matters, who told me, like, don't let these people make you think you're any the person that you know yourself to be, whether that is clients, whether that is management. You came in here because there was something that you brought to the table, that you showed them on paper, on your resume, that you expressed to them, and they looked at it and they heard you speak and said, this is what we need. Oh, one moment. Yeah, this is the things that you bring to the table are what we need. And then you got in the job and they misused you and they abused you, and like, don't let that seep into your psyche and make you feel like you are not good enough, or that there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong. No offense, there's something wrong with the population that you're serving, and also not just the population. Sadly, the people who are managing you. And I have now just that has started to sink into me and relieve my stress. And I also have to give major kudos to the head of my department. This person does not talk to me often. We had another conversation today. I am somebody who is big on not what somebody tells me once, but what somebody tells me, shows me, and proves to me over the course of time. Anyone can say anything once and be lying their behinds off about it. But, the more they say it, is the more, and the more they show it, is the more I believe it. I'll be right back. What's up? Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I go to all the same places. I support small businesses. Like, that's my thing. Like, yes, there's times when I'll go to Walmart. There's times when I'll go to Target. There's certain specific things that I get out of those specific stores. But I like going to the local place and supporting the person I know who knows my name when I walk in. Hey, Mark, how's it going? They kind of know my schedule. They know what I want. Like, my barber, I sit down in the chair, and unless I tell him I'm doing something new, I see you. Unless I tell him I'm doing something new, he's gonna know what's happening. It's like I sit down in the chair, he just starts going with my cut. I go to the same laundromat, I go to the same grocery store, and the places I go are not the cheapest places. I'm not aiming to go to the cheapest place, because I don't like walking into places where I go in there and they don't know me. Like, for an example, I went to this gym before, 24-hour fitness. I mean, I know they're nationwide, so some of you might have 24-hour fitnesses in your area. And I remember I went there when this particular one was brand new. It had just opened. 24-hour fitness wasn't new itself, but that particular 24-hour fitness was new. Oh, shoot. Okay, never mind. Yeah. So, I went in there, and the guy who was at the desk that was doing enrollments, he was like, let me give you the tour. I said, sure. So he said, okay. He's like, take a look at this. We got a swimming pool. We got the basketball court. He said, look at where the treadmills are positioned. We have an amazing view right in front of the windows where you can see outside. He was like, we have these other set of treadmills in the group exercise room where you can set the treadmills and the bikes. And it has like a TV, but not just a TV that you can see television channels, which those have been around for a little while now, but like a TV where you can set it like a course, like a race course. So instead of just getting on the treadmill and just running, you could pick, like, you're going through a forest and then set it, and so then you're going through, it shows you like you're running through the forest, and then if you're going up a hilly part of the forest, the treadmill will go up, it'll shake and rock or whatever. And it was kind of cool the first time I saw it. And then he was just like, oh, here's the locker room. The locker room, there's a jacuzzi in here, there's showers in here, there's this and that. He gave me the grand tour, and he seemed like he was so excited about this gym. So I ended up signing up with him. So then, I want to say 2 days later, I came to the gym for the first time. He says to me, hey, do you want to give me a tour? Do you want me to give you a tour of the gym? It's a beautiful gym. And I said, you already gave me the tour. And you took me all over the gym. You spent like a good 20 minutes on this tour. You showed me the upstairs. You showed me the pool, the basketball court. He says to me, oh, I say that shit to everybody. Excuse my French, but that's exactly how he said it. He was like, I don't remember you. Like, I say that to everybody. So, okay. So I guess I already gave it to you, so I don't need to give it to you again. I was like, okay. So obviously this guy didn't really care when he said all that stuff to me. He just saying what he got to say to get me to sign on the dotted line. He said, Mark. He didn't even say Mark. He said, do you know how many hundreds of these things I do in a week? Like, yours is not important like that. So when I go into this laundromat, I mean, they've had a revolving door somewhat. Not a big revolving door, because they at least have people there like 1 to 2 years at a time. So, but when I go in there, I know their name, they know my name, like, I know them a little bit professionally. So I like that. I prefer small local businesses over like big big business, that you're just another number that they don't care about. Marshall's my dog in the crib. I do that also. So yeah, that's why I took a little bit of time, because all these little stores that I just went to really quickly, I can't really do super quick stop-ins anymore, because at the very least, I'm like, how's your week going? Have you had a busy day today? Like things that I wish people would ask me, but out of 40 people that I have to service for the month, I might get those kind of questions out of 3, 4 of them, but I'm never going to stop being me. I believe in courtesy, and respect. That's something that my grandma raised me on. That's something that, despite the fact that my dad was who he was within our household, outside of the house, he was a extremely respectful guy, unless you crossed him. If you crossed him, you got a different version of him. But outside the house, he was very, very respectful. And I guess that's kind of applies to me too, if I'm being totally honest. People get like a really kind, really respectful version of me, unless they cross me, and unless they cross me over long periods of time. And when I had this conversation with this client today, they said to me, Mark, this could actually, even though I'm sorry for what I've done, this could have been avoided if you told me earlier. Here's the thing. I did tell you earlier. I had the same kind of conversation with my management before. Mark, this, if you had communicated yourself earlier. There was a time in my life where I'll eat that. There was a time in my life when I did not communicate at all. I'll just let it fester, 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 and fester, fester. That's not a recent thing. Recently, I definitely communicate. I'm like, this is the problem that I'm having. They either push back or shut me down. I'll mention it again in a polite way. For whatever reason, people don't respond to me when I speak to them and tell them a problem that I'm having in a way that is like gentle and really I don't know the word that I'm thinking of. I was gonna say docile, but I don't think that's quite the word I'm looking for. But when I turn the temperature to low to a medium boil, and I'm explaining my issue with them that way, no big deal. Like, it's no big deal, right? Then, when I turn the dial up to like medium hot to hot, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, that was harsh. And I'm like, you're doing something repeatedly over the course of time. I explained to you over and over. I'm like, I don't like this. Here's the reasons why I don't like this. And you keep doing it. Eventually, you're going to catch me on the wrong day. And you're going to get a version of what I was trying to say to you that you are not going to like. And I'm going to be generally unapologetic about it. This person got the version of what I say to everybody, personal life and professional life. I'm very consistent. They said, I'm sorry for my behavior, I'm sorry for my actions, and I'm sorry for the way that I spoke to you. And I'm sorry for the things that I said. I cannot give that type of apology, because I mean everything I say. Now, the apology that I gave was, I'm sorry that what I said to you hurt your feelings and that it came off in a harsh way. I can in the future work on improving my delivery when I feel that way. But I stand on business. I said what I said. The only way you would get any other type of apology, there have been times where I either had incorrect information or I reacted disproportionately to the situation. So what I mean by that is I thought something was one way, but I misread it, and then I found out later that I misread it. And so once I got the correct information, it was like, all right, now I have to just apologize for, what, I was just wrong. So I have to apologize for being wrong. But me, at 37 years old, at this stage in my life, I am so much, the saying that it says, measure twice, cut once? I'm like, measure 10 times and cut once. I don't measure twice. I measure way more than twice. So by the time I do the cutting, I am so certain of what I believe. Now, am I saying I'm always right in that belief? No, I'm not always right in that belief, but I am going to say I take an extremely educated guess. An extremely educated guess to the point where I feel like there's like a 10% chance or less of me actually being wrong about what I'm saying. I check and I double check and I triple check, and I wait and I watch and I observe, I listen, I think about it thoroughly. So by the time something is coming out of my mouth, you better believe I believe that thing. And the only way that that's going to change is if you do or say something that gives me cause to think that I was wrong. And if I was wrong, I am going to apologize. I have no issue with that. I just feel like with my process that I go through, I'm not one of those emotional, quick to jump to conclusions type of people. I'm like, even if I think that it looks this way, I'm still going to do my due diligence to do the research to make sure that my feelings are founded in truth. I'm big on that. You know why? Because it's Throwback Thursday. This is kind of like a Throwback Thursday thing in a way. A throwback to my life of the way that it used to be. I was the instant reaction person. Something looks and sounds a way to me, I don't have to fact check. This is how I feel in this moment. I'm going to tell you how I feel right now. And that's what I used to do. And more often than not, I would tell you how I feel right now. And then I would find out later that I was wrong, and this would be often the case. And then I would have to beg, please, I need your forgiveness, and I hated that. I'm such a prideful person. I'm not too proud to apologize, but I'm so proud that I hated having to do that. And I said to myself one day, I no longer want to be a person who has to do that. How can I change? And therapy helped me with that. Therapy was like, and my therapist, that particular therapist that I got, basically taught me, like, Mark, the way how you avoid having to apologize to everybody is to think before you speak. That might sound like a really obvious thing to say, but I'm not the only one who suffers from instant speakology. I just made that up right now. Instant speakology. Meaning, someone says something that triggers you a little bit, and instead of thinking about the full picture, you just snap. Like, for an example, I have a friend that's going through like physical ailments, and they've said things to me during that time period that are things that if they were not physically ill, I would have got rid of them a long time ago. And but because I know that some of the things that are said are a response to what that person is going through, I let more slide. However, I let more slide, but I don't let everything slide. One of the best things that someone ever told me is that they deal with people on a sliding scale. So as an example, that how I've applied that to my life. If there's a person who has just everyday life things going on and they just snap at me out of nowhere, I give them a lot less grace than somebody who I'm like, okay, this person recently went through something. They lost somebody in their life, or they lost a job, or they were diagnosed with some kind of terminal illness or something like that. I can give that person grace on that sliding scale. Like, I know that because of what this person is experiencing right now, grace is required. Grace is a requirement. Like, I'm gonna know that I might get something from them that I wouldn't usually get. Now, it's not gonna be unlimited grace, but like I said, it's gonna be more grace than the person who is just going through an average set of circumstances. Now, the other thing is, it could be that the other person is not going through an average set of circumstances. It could be that they have a lot going on as well. But if they don't tell you that, you like, it's not something that counts for them. It's not a point. And I've learned that for myself too. Like, if I snap at somebody, and this has happened to me before, where I have not told anyone what's going on, I snap at somebody, then I'm like, shoot, man. Then I have to go to them and say, you didn't deserve that. Again, this is not something that really happens anymore, but it's happened so many times in my life. Like, you didn't actually deserve that. It's because of such and such that I was experiencing, and I didn't let you know. So because of that, I gave you a response that you didn't deserve, and it was unexpected. And like, that was a me thing. That wasn't a you thing. So, if I'm closing this up, but if you can take anything from what I'm saying right now, if you're like me and you don't want to be that apologetic ass person who always has to be like, oh, I'm sorry, be the person who thinks before you say whatever you got to say. Examine all the circumstances. See if it's a possibility that whoever didn't mean to disrespect you, if they disrespected you or offended you. It's possible that they didn't care. They did mean that. They meant whatever they said. There were no circumstances surrounding it, and it is what it is, and you act accordingly. But I believe in, like, being thorough, and especially if it's somebody who does not consistently present that side of them to you, and all of a sudden they bring that side to the table out of nowhere. It's worth looking into and being like, are you okay, my friend? Because I had someone have to forgive me. I had such a good friend that I snapped on one day, and the things that friend was doing to me, I didn't like, but they were not worthy of the type of reaction that I had. The true reaction, if I was level-headed that day and I wasn't going through the issues I was going through, might have been like, pull them aside and be like, I didn't like the way that you were talking to me today. I'm just letting you know that I found that offensive, and I hope that you will not talk to me like that in the future. But it was not like things that they were saying that were a point of no return. It might have been things that they usually say to me that I always didn't like and never expressed. So if I didn't express them, I'm always clear with that. If I didn't express those things to them and they're violating boundaries that I didn't express, they're not necessarily violating boundaries, because imagine there's probably people in their lives that they do talk to like that, and they're okay. Those people they speak to are possibly okay with that. I feel like I cannot say somebody, well, there's certain things, there's exceptions. There's exceptions where you don't have to tell somebody they crossed the line. Like, there's certain things you just don't say. But there's a good amount of things that somebody might not know are boundaries, because everyone's boundary lines are different, and I've experienced that. I've said things to people where those same things could be said to me, and I'm not gonna snap and be out of control over it, you know. But if I say that to somebody else and their boundary line happens to be different, you know, I am actually, now that I'm saying all this, I want to revamp the boundary setting, I don't know, presentation that I've written since 2021, possibly. I want to revamp it, and I want to present it in 2025, I'm sorry. And I think that it would be a great presentation. It's sitting in the wings, just like my book that I've fully written that needs to be edited. Oh, those are two huge goals of mine in 2025. Get my book edited and publish it and put it out, and then also get my play. If I had the money, Cara has an option of actually booking her to come to one of your events, and I would so do that. Honestly, I would so do that. The only problem is I would have to come so deep out of my own pockets for that, and I believe that I could get the money back, but I don't have, if I had the money, right, like if I had enough money that money would not set me back until I got the money back. I believe in myself more than enough that I know that just having her there, I could create a system where I would for sure get the money back. Matter of fact, I'm gonna reach out to some of my people and see if we could figure that out. Because I don't believe that one thing that my dad raised me to believe is that everything is within the realm of possibility. I could definitely have an event with Cara. I could have an event with any of these reality TV people, but it just has to make sense and it has to be worth it. I mentioned on my channel before a Survivor person who was going to charge me $550 to be at my event for 3 hours, and it's not necessarily the $550 that got me. It was the ROI, the return on investment. I'm not here to sit and tell anybody what they're worth, but I am willing to say what I'm willing to invest. And based on how things have gone for that person, from what I visually have seen since the time they have not been on the challenge anymore in Survivor, I think that they overcharged. And I don't think that anyone, well, I can't speak and say that nobody paid them that rate, but the type of event that I asked them to do for me, I have never seen them do that type of event before or since. So I think I was actually offering something that would have benefited them. And they priced me out of it. Not because I didn't have the 550, but because I didn't feel like it was a worthwhile investment putting in 550 in the pot towards somebody who might not generate that. Like, for an example, car, I told y'all, charges like 300 bucks. She changed her pricing structure, but at the time when I first saw it, she charged 300 bucks to do a 30-minute interview, which I was like, that's a lot. But then I also thought about the popularity of Cara Maria and the potential for this thing to do a significant amount of views and doors for it to open, because I maybe I'm misreading her, but I feel like she's the type of person who would not just do the interview, but then she might also try to like plug you in with other people in her industry. Like, seems that way, she seems like that type of person from what I know about her. So I think that it would be worth it. And also, you guys supporting me and the donations that y'all gave, that helped me as well. But anyways, that's what I got. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Appreciate y'all greatly. I greatly appreciate y'all. Just the same way how these people have been telling me that they appreciate me. All of a sudden, I constantly tell everybody that I appreciate them. Maybe to the point of being extra, but I'm like, you could be here today, gone tomorrow. Matter of fact, I have a client that passed that I told you guys about that I'm gonna stop in briefly for their service tomorrow. I've had like maybe 4 funerals that I've attended in 4 weeks, and it's a wait, but the way those families appreciate seeing me there touches me. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified when I drop some more great content. Thank you all. Have an amazing evening.